Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready. Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Okay, Wookie. Well, Wookie really has the life. He's out there yachting and swimming in the pool, lounging in the library. We should all have that life. Hey, Roger, it's good to see you. Right? Yeah, it's good to see you. So, Roger, what do you think about the idea that Trump started bragging last night that he's going to take Kharg Island? We'll be taking Kharg Island. What do you think?
Well, imagine a modern day Iwo Jima with landing craft and helicopters and stuff going in there with Marines. It'll be Marines probably. That's what they do. Mm-hmm. And they'll get some guys ashore. They're gonna, but how long can they keep them there? How much support is it going to take to make them survive? To let them survive? I don't think Iran's going to take that lightly. I think there'll be some pushback on it.
Yeah, we talked about the fact that he was bragging about it 2 months ago, that he was going to take Kharg Island. And the issues to me were, first, yes, the U.S. military can absolutely take that island and every one of the other islands in the Strait of Hormuz and Persian Gulf. Absolutely, they can take them. But there are some issues here. One is that that area is very well defended by Iran, and they cannot take them without casualties. So Americans are going to die to take them. How do they hold them is the next question. Because the Iranians have all manner of artillery and drones and missiles that are set up to bomb it. So how many casualties would they take to try to hold it, and how long could they hold it? The next issue is that if you're going to go there, then and on any of these islands, then you have to take the shore. Mm-hmm. You've got to go ashore and take that first ridgeline. But the first ridgeline is now vulnerable to the second ridgeline. And that's vulnerable to the third ridgeline. So when do you stop sending men inland into Iraq or to Iran? And then the issue becomes, what happens when the Iranians capture the first POWs? And then my biggest question of all is, like your Iwo Jima example, so what? What's the point of all of the death and suffering? What do you gain by going there? If you could open up the Strait of Hormuz so you could have any boat that wanted to come and go, do so, you would have done so, but you can't. So what's the purpose of controlling Kharg Island or any other island along the coast if you can't control the strait, and if it's too dangerous for commercial ships to sail? What's the point?
That's exactly right. Iwo Jima was taken because it was a stepping stone to get the bombers to be able to reach Japan. So they had to take it. But Trump's got platforms for aircraft all around the Middle East. He doesn't need that. He doesn't need to take Kharg Island. I think it's a braggadocious point for him. I think he wants to do it because he says he can do it. And when public opinion starts to turn on him with this, as it will, and there starts to be some casualties, how is he going to handle that?
Yeah, and there was always an alternative. I would disagree that the U.S. did not have to take Iwo Jima or any one of those islands, and that there were many other ways to send bombers into Japan, and the foremost of those were to require the Russians to give full access to their Pacific shore. And if they had done so, and they didn't have any choice, the Russians were dependent upon American food and parts and ammunition and weapons. And so they would have, for a while, they would have loaned it to the Americans. They lost 25 million defending Russia. They're not going to throw it all in on giving Americans access to their Pacific seaboard. And once you have that, you fly bombers all day long and the support fighters from the Aleutian Islands down to the Russian coastline and then over Japan. And you don't have to sacrifice a single American, much less 100,000 of them, taking islands for really no purpose. I never understood what in the hell we were doing. And if the idea was to attack the Japanese coastline, then all you really needed was to neutralize their aircraft carriers, which America had already done. Fly your aircraft carriers near the shore and bomb them that way. But it's just not what we did. And even when we had the opportunity, then we had them in reach. General May knew that if America lost the war, they were going to be killed for war crimes, because what we did is we dropped white sulfur on civilians night after night, killing as many as 50,000 civilians in a night. When America and the world screams at Israel for genocide, well, Israel hasn't done anything compared to what America did, both in Germany and in Japan. And I want to tell you that the Germans and the Japanese did nothing by comparison to what the Muslims have done to Israel to generate a response. And it's not even close what the Jews have done vis-a-vis what America did in the previous World War. I just happen to be a complete opponent to the strategy that we used. I don't even like the strategy that we used, and waiting 2 years to land troops on the beaches at Normandy. I think there was a vastly superior way to go about that war, which was to go in through Greece, where we'd have had a much better reception, go right up through the Balkans, separate Germany from its oil supply, keep the Soviet Union from taking those countries and making them worse off than they were under the Nazis. There were so many vastly better solutions, and we just didn't pursue them.
Yeah. I think much like the Ukraine war, there are two different wars being fought here in over Iran. There is the made for TV war, that lots of bombs and we're blowing up bridges and we're, and the bluster and everything. And then Iran setting back and actually hitting military and responsive targets. This thing shuts down immediately the second that Iran shows a POW on TV from Tehran. I mean, the American public will, and Trump can't face that. He cannot face a POW situation. Dead soldiers is one thing, because they can hide those numbers. They can hide that behind, they can hide those numbers. They can hide those scenes from TV.
And blame it on all manner of things. Like we did in the Iraq invasion. Everything about Iraq and Afghanistan was fake. I traced the first 500 deaths of Americans in Afghanistan and Iraq, and there wasn't a single accurate report by the Department of Defense. Every single report was dishonest. I mean, America's Department of Defense is just nothing but a pile of lies. And if you don't know that, shame on you, because it just happens to be true. But the biggest issue, I think, of all in his thinking here, as he has gone back to bombing, is that all you're doing is taking a situation in which there is no way out other than America's surrender. I mean, that is it. America, total capitulation by America. War reparations to Iran. America retreats from the Middle East. So it's either total capitulation and surrender by America, however he wants to spin that, or the straits stay closed and the world economy, including America's economy, ultimately collapse. So that's where we are. And by escalating this, which is what he did 2 nights ago, over what I think is likely a false flag. I think that the whole downing of the Apache helicopter was either positioned there for that purpose, or it had nothing to do with the Iranians. We just had a mechanical malfunction and used it as a pretext to go and bomb again. Either way, it put a very bad situation in a far worse position.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta, the kind of the question that I ask myself, and it goes back to any war, but especially this one, is how much influence do the high echelon military commanders have against the commander in chief? You got politics pulling in different directions. How is Trump being advised? Is this 100% Trump's decisions? Do the American commanders have anything to say about it at all, or are they just saying, yes, sir, let's go do it?
Well, I don't think there's any chance, none, that anybody who is rational and informed could come to the conclusion that this man is anything other than insane. Now, we know him as demon-possessed, but being demon-possessed does make you mad. So if you're a general, your responsibility is to the Constitution, and therefore the president becomes the commander-in-chief, but you are not duty-bound. In fact, you're just the opposite when it comes to doing something that's a war crime. And what Trump is doing, blowing up bridges, for example, and a place where there's no troop movements that are hostile to America, these are just civilian targets, that's a war crime. Blowing up a school, that's a war crime. And so generals are, we look at the Nuremberg trials, you are not immune to all of this. You cannot say, I was just following orders. If you follow an order that is a war crime, you're a war criminal. And the world takes a very dim view of that kind of thing. So in terms of his cabinet, he surrounded himself with a bunch of clowns. Sycophants and clowns. So there is nobody in his cabinet that's giving him any advice. And Orange Man here doesn't listen to anybody. He has a very short attention span. He doesn't read. He doesn't do briefings. And so it's not listening to anybody. All he wants now is a way out. And he's desperate for a way out. But he wants a way out that he can save face, and there just is none. So he's just lashing out at all manner of things. And now, in terms of why he went ahead and participated in this war, I am one of those that would say, yeah, it's true that Netanyahu was a broken record of regime change, which was impossible, and we knew it. And you're going to advance, not retard, the Iranian nuclear ambition if you strike them again. And so it was counterproductive. But he's been touting those things, and he had the president's ear. And so, yes, he, I'm sure, was the broken record. But Trump doesn't listen to anybody. So Netanyahu would just be a voice among scores of other voices that have his ear. And he is not motivated to do anything that somebody else tells him to do. I mean, the only rational means, you only have two, pursuant to both attacks on Iran. One is that he's desperate to be seen as better than Obama. And the only way he can be seen as better than Obama for having torn up the Obama five-nation Iranian nuclear pact is to be the one that permanently stops Iran from having a nuclear bomb. But he's done exactly the opposite. And so this attack, since his first attack failed, this attack may have been his attempt to say, yeah, I did better than Obama. It backfired on him. And that's one motivation. And that's the one he keeps on repeating. Iran's not going to have a nuclear bomb. And actually, Iran very likely already has a nuclear bomb, and the likelihood that it has a nuclear bomb is based solely on the last two American strikes. So he caused it. He didn't prevent it. The second thing is he could do it because he is a big enough piece of shit that he could do it to preclude more focus on the Epstein files, where he is clearly a pedophile and he's a rapist. And those are impeachable crimes. So those are the only two justifications. There are no other for the Copper Con, other than he's Satan and he likes death and destruction. I mean, you guys got any other ideas as to what could have caused a man who claims to be so bright, so in charge of everything to have made two such horrendous blunders?
Well, he seems to be working at it. Yeah, it's insane to me to see a person like that, as insane as he is. Well, he got elected. People didn't think he was insane, but since then he has shown his true colors. There's no going back now. It's just
yeah. I would agree with you, and take it to at least to a point. None of us knew that Donald Trump was demon possessed, or that he was literally insane when he was running as for 47.
right.
We knew he was a revolting sexual pervert, and we knew that, and there was no doubt about that. And we knew that he was a malignant narcissist. No doubt about that. And we knew that he said some of the dumbest, most ridiculous things in the history of somebody in a position of power that probably no one ever in the history of the world, including Muammar Gaddafi. I mean, even Pajama Man. I don't think anyone in a position of power has ever said as dumb things as he did under his first term, until you compare him to his second term. So we knew that he had a trash mouth. He was vicious to everybody, including his own supporters, that he had no morals whatsoever, that he was a sexual pervert, and he was the worst form of narcissist in his first term. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But there's a far cry between that and demonic and absolutely insane. And he began this whole term with a singular objective, and it was to punish all of those that were trying to hold him accountable for his prior crimes. That was his agenda. It had nothing to do with America, had nothing to do with MAGA. It was the vengeance tour. Mm-hmm. And that's all he has focused on, and to enrich himself, to enrich his family, and to go after all of those and punish all of those that were held him accountable from his previous crimes. Now, the problem with that is that you can excuse those in the middle, or the undecided politically in the swing states, and the MAGAs for supporting a rapist and pedophile and egomaniacal idiot over cackles. I mean, so long as the Democrats continue to run unqualified Marxists, then they make the choice of belligerent moron appealing. I mean, it's like the guy they just nominated to run for Senate in Maine. Mm-hmm. It's disgusting. And, it's all the people that they're parading around are Marxists. America is not a Marxist country. I know the Democrat Party is, but America isn't. And so I understand how people voted for him. If I was political and my choice would have been the same. I would not have supported Cackles and her Marxism and her total incompetence. And I would have compared to what Trump was in his first term. I would have. So I understand that. But even before he swore the oath of office, he was saying insane things like, turning Gaza into resorts and moving them into the Sinai and into Jordan. And it was just one insane statement after another, making Canada the 51st state. And as he began this parade of, really, that's insane, pal, it became obvious that he was not well. And then we went immediately to our knitting and say, well, this is not the election you want to win, because the prophets were very clear that whoever's the head of the United States, when the clock ticks by Shabuah in 2026, May 22nd of this year, that person is the great betrayer. That's Rahab. That's what the Christians would call the Antichrist. He is Satan incarnate. And so you just punched your ticket, pal. What I find is so amazing is that support of Trump is defining what it means to be a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump, Satan, Jesus, all the same.
Yeah, and the behavior's allowed too. I mean, it's just ask for forgiveness and all that's fine, right? I mean, that's the idea. That's the only thing Christians have to hang their heads.
Forgiveness. Yeah, he didn't want any forgiveness. No, he's
right.
God.
Right. I just meant his followers. You know what I'm saying? That's their whole,
I'm not even sure their followers are asking for forgiveness. They wallow in this shit. I mean, it's the same 38% that were hardcore MAGAs that are still hardcore MAGAs. They haven't gotten their head out of their tuchus.
Right.
It's really pathetic if you're a Trump supporter, really. And the ones that are influencers that are no longer Trump supporters who made their fame and fortune by being MAGA supporters, the only reason they're not Trump supporters is because they're just too anti-Semitic.
Mm-hmm.
And they found that there's more popularity and therefore money in being an anti-Semite today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sad situation.
This is where he blows up the bridge. Yeah,
a bridge. Yeah, it's a beautiful bridge. I mean, it's a beautiful bridge. He blew up the bridge. There's no. I mean, this is not a situation where you're in World War II and the bad guys are using the bridge to invade your territory, and they're bringing in all sorts of munitions to do that, and you need to stop them, and therefore you blow up the bridge. That isn't this case. There's no tanks that are moving here or armored personnel carriers. They're not taking rocket launchers on this bridge. This is a civilian bridge, and you just went and effing blew up a civilian bridge because you could. This is the ultimate bully in a sandbox, and he's become the scum of the world.
Absolutely.
The water reservoir is what screams to me. The water reservoir that feeds 20,000 people in the desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he blew up a dam in the desert and a bridge, and he calls that a military target. I mean, I know that AI is choosing these targets, but he had to approve them. I mean, America has become the scum of the world. It's by allowing Trump to stay in office and to use the U.S. military in this way, America's become the second most hated nation on earth. The only one that's hated more than America is Israel because, well, they've done some really stupid stuff too. Yeah. But, congratulations. You went from a nation that should be the envy of the world to the most hated nation in the world, all because you've got a bully in a sandbox who's just a brat.
Exactly.
And become the scum of the world.
And the MAGAs are celebrating the bridge being blown up, and they're celebrating the aquifer being destroyed. They satiate over this stuff. It's crazy. I remember when Trump was running the first time, 47. Mm-hmm. You'd see him, his helicopter would land in an open field. And people would jump over fences and pile on cars and get in there just to see him. So there's something about that man that endears him to that category that we call the MAGAs now. Yeah. And they're not letting go. I can tell you, they're not. I talk to people every day.
It doesn't change at all. Every poll's the same. Yeah. Every poll's the same in terms of Trump support. Every poll. The Twistians have turned this idiot into their Messiah, and they might as well. I mean, Jesus is no better than this piece of shit that is POTUS. They're both disgusting. They're both Satan, and they applaud him when he's rude, because I wish I had the courage to tell him that way. He has a conniption fit because a reporter held him accountable and said, you keep on claiming election fraud. Where's the proof? You've never provided a single stroke of evidence. You're killing the California elections. You just made the statement that the California elections were fraudulent. Why? Where's the proof? Because a influencer didn't win that had a 0% chance of winning, and you want to call it a fraud? What's the proof? Show us some proof. And, he had none. And then he said, sir, why are you talking about going back to war with Iran? You campaigned saying that you were going to be the peace president and no wars. He says, I never said anything like that. She says, yes, you did. And then, of course, he has a conniption fit, throws down the mic and walks out. And the MAGAs are saying, damn right, he should have. She was disrespectful. How can you be disrespectful to Satan?
Right. Well, I read a long time ago somewhere, I don't remember where it was, but it basically said that if you create a lie and you repeat the lie long enough and hard enough, eventually the lie will become truth.
Yeah.
So
perceived as true. It doesn't ever become true, but it gets perceived as true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It was Barnum, who of Ringling Brothers, the circus, which I don't think exists anymore. But you can fool most of the people most of the time, and all the people some of the time. And I think that is what we're running into here. And he has no competition because the Democrats are literally mind dead. I mean, I guess to be a Marxist, you do have to be ignorant and irrational. That's all true. But still, there is no alternative because the voice of the Democrat is so shrill and so socialistic and so unqualified that he's eating them up alive. We have to give him credit for one thing. He is very good at being bad. There has never been anyone that's as good at being obnoxious and bad and vicious as is Trump. So they're afraid of him.
He basically has most of the media on his side. Well, Fox is supporting him. There are other members in the media. I think I read something also back
And
when the Spanish American,
soon CBS,
during the Spanish-American War, where Hearst and his newspaper in California actually gemmed up the population to support that war.
Mm-hmm.
So the press can make it happen.
J.P. Morgan bought most of the newspapers in the United States to justify World War I and America's entrance into it and the sinking of the Lusitania, to justify it because he would have gone bankrupt if America hadn't joined the war and supported the loans that he had made to the UK and keep the UK alive, or he would have gone broke on all of those loans. So it's buying the media to do that is a very successful tool. It was done to create World War I. The media knows that they make the most money during wartime. So they're very happy to be in war. And today, Trump runs the White House as a godfather, as a crime boss. And it is with all of the tech oligarchs, every one of them, most of whom were previously liberal. Their pocketbooks are much more important. Money is much more important to them than morality, because all of them have capitulated to Trump buying influence by promising that he won't turn the feds off on them, and he will take the feds off of them so they can do whatever they want to do, so long as they support him. And so that's what's happened with the transformation of CBS, for example, or X, or Facebook, or Google, or YouTube. All of these things, TikTok, they've all had the culture changed to parrot MAGA Trumpism, because he has played the role of godfather over them. But this picture here, it's just total shame. Shame on the United States. Shame on the U.S. military for conducting that kind of raid. Shame on the pilots that dropped the bomb. Shame on the aircraft carrier they flew off of, if it was an aircraft carrier. Shame on the Arab nations for allowing them to use their airspace. Shame on MAGA for supporting this. Shame on the Republican Party. And shame on the Democrats for not being able to stop it. KKK Nikki, she just has one too few K's in her name. I just wanted to help her out with the spelling there. KKK Nikki here. Her answer is, well, we're going to threaten Russia and China with force. So we're going to go to war. That's the only way you can project a force. She didn't say, let's tighten the economic screws. Let's use political influence. Let's use some diplomacy. No, she said force. That'd be the military. So Nikki Haley is urging Trump to go to war with Russia and China. Well, we're at war with Russia already through a proxy in Ukraine, and we're at war with China through a proxy in Iran, both wars that we started, U.S. started. And she said, "I'll just stop it with the proxies. Let's just bypass the proxies. Let's just go to war with Russia and China, you bitch. Stand there in front of that flag. Wear your red dress. Get your red lipstick. Fox News."
Well, it looks like she wants to jump on the old Ukrainian Russian bandwagon. Let's the Ukrainians do it. Let's get in on the fun too.
Oh yeah, man, sure. It's we've squandered America's military weaponry and supporting Ukraine to bludgeon Russia and bombing Iran to bludgeon China. And neither have worked. Both have made a miserable situation in the world. And the solution is, let's bypass the proxies and go and declare war directly with them.
My question is, use what force? In what delusional world do they think that the United States has been holding something back? Right?
That we have a force we could deploy against
yes.
Russia and China. You're going to use force against Russia. You only have one force you could use against Russia. The United States is not going to go and fly bombers over Russia. The United States isn't going to send directly cruise missiles and other kind of missiles into Russia. The United States isn't going to send nukes into Russia unless they can torch her and she starts to glow, which would probably be a good thing. I'd recommend that.
And nothing of value was lost.
The fact is, the United States can't even get within 1,500 miles of China.
Mm-hmm.
The day for America to say, I think we want to go to war with China as opposed to doing business with China ended 15 years ago. And now China is able to support a Navy and build a Navy that's better than the United States, missiles better than the United States, drones that are better than the United States. And you can't fight a war today unless you have the economic engine to sustain it. And America doesn't have it, and China and Russia do. So you're just being stupid. And the only weapon that the United States could wield against China and Russia comes off the boomers, and it's nukes. And you do that, and America's gone. Europe's gone. Mm-hmm. The whole northern hemisphere is gone.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
how
a kind
irresponsible these KKKers are.
Yeah, this is Nikki, the politician. She's probably positioning herself to run for office. She's going to run for office as a hardliner. So, yeah, to me, it's just political, posturing.
But when you're politically posturing and you're telling the president that first of all, I'm going to run for office, so I have an influence over the U.S. military, and I'm telling the president of the United States that he ought to go to war with Russia and China. If you want to call that political posturing, then I'd say that then the guy that pulls a gun to your head on an armed robbery, he's just having a little conversation with you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I'll not get upset.
I agree, but stupid statements like this come out all the time from Washington, and Nikki Haley's one of the ones that cause
And
it.
we tolerate it.
Okay.
And we
a lot of
tolerate it.
things- Yeah. Okay. A lot of things are said. I can't say a lot of things. Almost everything that is said by influencers and politicians and the religious is moronic, is just counterproductive and stupid. There rises to a level, though, of things that become beyond stupid and become criminal. I'll use the example of it is actually free speech is guaranteed by the Constitution. But you can't stand up and yell fire in a crowded theater because of the consequence of that. Saying I want you to threaten Russia with force is far worse than yelling fire in a crowded theater. That becomes criminal. You are putting people's lives at risk.
Yes.
I don't think that's political pandering that ought to be neglected. I think it ought to be criticized and rebuked, and I think she ought to be rebuked and shamed of herself for saying such a stupid thing.
Absolutely.
You know, someplace you got to hold people accountable, and if we don't hold people accountable for threatening World War III, that's probably makes us also immoral if we aren't willing to do that, and I think we need to do it.
Absolutely.
Hebrews, Israelites, and Jews. Do you know the difference? This person says, and it has them at different stages. So, the Hebrews were the Moshiites, and but why would they call the children of Israel if there's a distinction between the two? They're only referenced as Ibri when they were slaves in Egypt, and the moment that they were on their own, God referred to them as the children of Israel. So therefore, there would be no difference of any kind between the first two, would there? And the third one, that this numbskull, as God as Jews, is standing before the temple. What's wrong with that picture?
They've never been called Jews. They've never been called Jews.
Well, they weren't called Jews, certainly by God. And then they term Jew for someone who was one of the tribes of Yisrael, didn't exist until the 17th century. And the second temple was destroyed in 70 CE. So a Jew shown in front of a temple it shows that the person who is positioning this is an ignoramus. Mm-hmm. Either that or the AI that is being used is an ignoramus, or both. Or the people they're trying to influence are ignoramuses. So let's be really clear. The Ibri from Abar means on the other side. We're called Abar on the other side. When they were on the other side and in Mitzrayim as slaves. The moment they became free, they're no longer referred to as the Ibri on the other side anymore. And they're called the children of Israel. Now, Israel, the children of Israel, clearly is a naming convention. It's not an ethnicity. Very important naming convention. It's given to us by God. And Jew did not exist until the letter J was developed in 1629, when the first time it was used in any meaningful way. That's when Jesus was invented, by the way. And so when Yehud, which is one of the 12 tribes of Israel, decided that they were going to represent all of Israel and pretend that one tribe was all of Israel, that was a tragedy. And so they weren't referring to themselves as Israelites anymore, but instead as Yehud, one of the 12 tribes, the other 11 don't matter. When we're all going to call ourselves the same tribe when that doesn't apply to us. And then when they decided that they would change that name to write Yahweh's name out of their name, Yahud is Yahweh and Dod, Yahweh's beloved, that was one of the greatest crimes that people have ever done to themselves. And it's just a tragedy that they did this. And then to carry on the lie, it's worse than pretending that there are Palestinians. There are no Jews on the planet. There are no Palestinians on the planet for different reasons. But this is a tragedy that we don't know these things. And particularly when the truth is so obvious.
It is a tragedy. And it would still be that way if it wasn't for somebody that I know that's decoded it, translated the Dead Sea Scrolls and brought it to light. Got it. And otherwise, the whole world would still be in darkness. And now there's a few that are seeing the light.
Yeah.
So,
have you ever heard of anybody else out there that is saying, "Wait a minute, the term Jew is a bogus term. It should never have been used. It's an affront to God. It's a disgrace to the people themselves. It's made up. It has no history. It has no legitimacy. And the term is Yahud. And if you're not willing to use Yahud, then you don't know what you're talking about. And no, Jew is not the English for Yahud. It just isn't. And Yahud use the term Jew rather than Yahud. The only people that actually call him Yahud are the Arabs trying to kill him.
right. Yeah. It's
And they just don't want to be associated with Yahweh. I mean, that's their whole deal, is they hate Yahweh's name. As do the Christians, as do the Muslims, as do most people on earth. And that was the biggest thing that we came to realize, that God has a name, it's Yahweh. If they only knew. First of all, there is no legitimate reasoning here. If one man can kill 6 million Jews, first of all, one man did not kill 6 million Jews. And to blame one man for the death of 6 million Jews is grotesquely ignorant, and it destroys the lesson that could otherwise be learned. Let's talk about that first, then we'll talk about the man who can save 6 million Jews, because there is a man that's going to save 6 million Jews. Not going to save 6 million Jews, but he will save 6 million Israelites. How about that? The reason that the Holocaust happened is because Christianity happened. And the reason Christianity happened is because Judaism happened. Paul was a trained rabbi, and he used the rabbinical approach to create the myth of Jesus, because the rabbis had completely screwed their people and themselves out of the truth regarding the Messiah and the Son of God, who is David, and the promises that he had that he would be here in 33 CE and fulfill Passover through crucifixion, which he wrote in vivid detail, and then gave us the exact date that he would fulfill Chag Matzah. The rabbis screwed that up, and then they trained Paul to lie as well as they do, or as poorly as they do, and he created Christianity. And in creating Christianity, Paul's lie was that his God got mad at the Jews because, well, the Jews killed him. Well, first of all, God's not a man. Second of all, men can't kill God. Third, Jews have never crucified anyone. And the very people that he was praising in his letter to Rome, and the government that he told people they all had to surrender to and submit to, is the government that not only killed his mythical Jesus, but became the Roman Catholic Church. And yet, not able to figure any of this out rationally, there are 2.5 billion Twistians today. But without Paul's lie that God came to hate Jews because Jews killed him, what a stupid lie, there would be no Christianity. It's all based upon that lie. The basis of Christianity is that lie. They had transferred all the promises that God made right to the very end, making God dishonest, but they don't really care about that God anyway. Their God was a man. And without that transfer of promises, there is no Christianity. Now, there's no basis for it. It's utterly stupid. It makes God dishonest. It turns God into a man. It turns God into someone men can kill, and it turns Jews into people that they were not. But it's just a pile of lies, and well, today 2.5 billion people believe that pile of lies. But if it wasn't for that pile of lies, the Holocaust would never have happened. It only happened because the culture of Roman Catholic Europe hated Jews, and they had for the 18 centuries prior to that, subjugating them, torturing them, tormenting them, lying about them, creating mass killings of them, robbing them constantly. And so that's the reason the Holocaust took place, Christianity. And then when Hitler, as a socialist, thought that, well, money is all I care about, let's just rob them. I'll use them as the scapegoat, so that, they're your boogeyman, so I can rally people around me. I'm the guy that's taking care of your boogeyman. You rob them, which you needed their money, and then you exile them, is what he intended to do after he worked them near to death. And it was the chief Muslim in the area, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, that came with the idea, no, don't exile them. We don't want them here. Mm-hmm. Execute them. Exterminate them. And so it was a combination of Christianity and Islam. And even with that, it took socialism, Marxism, because that was the belief system of Hitler's Nazi party. So it wasn't one man, it was Marxism, Islam, and mostly Christianity. That's why 6 million Jews were killed. So now let's look at the other side of the equation, because it is true. One man can save 6 million Israelites. 2 out of every 3 Israelites are going to die. He can't save them. But God has deployed a man, and guess what? He's not a Jew. He's not even a Israelite by ethnicity. He is by naming convention. He is a Yehud by naming convention, but he's called the observant foreigner, the Nakri. And while he will initially spare that many by causing the war to come to an end, that is the Alaska Flood 2.0, and he will cause it to come to an end. In the end, there's going to be thousands of Israelites spared, not 6 million. And you'd think that Box Boy there got his glasses. He ought to be able to read. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious he can read his Talmud, but he can't read the Torah and prophets, because if he read the Torah and prophets, he'd know what I know. But he doesn't. So he's just a complete fraud. But he's got that nice, clever box on the top of his head.
Clever.
They look the part.
I'm going to put the world and reality in this little box, and then rather than God's instructions were to keep my testimony between your eyes, such that it helped to shape how you viewed the world. I gave you the ability to be observant. As you observe the world, I want you to use my testimony as the way to frame these issues, so you have an understanding of what you're witnessing. And then on the back of your hand, because then your response should be guided by my testimony as well. That was his advice. And it follows where Yahowah said, listen, Yisrael, Yahowah our God, Yahowah is one. And they butchered that too, turning it into not only something to say as opposed to listen, they erased Yahowah's name from it. What a disgusting religion. Most anti-Shem religion in the history of the world, against the name. Yeah. Box Boy.
Rabbinical Judaism is the ultimate control mechanism. Everything goes to the rabbis. It's been very successful, difficult to get out of, from what I understand. Yeah.
There was a period where Twistianity, particularly about the point of Theodosius, which was 4th early 5th century, late 4th century, in the Eastern Roman Empire, when he said that Christianity is going to be the only lawful religion, and that he, as emperor, was head of the religion, and you either capitulate the religion or you were dead. And Roman Catholicism, from that point on throughout Europe and that part of the world, was something you either obeyed or they tortured you to death. Islam is something in an Islamic country you either capitulate to or they torture you to death. So religion is a control mechanism for sure. Jews have long had a house divided between those who capitulate to a nationalized religion and those who were opposed to it. But those who are part of it, Roger, are more controlled than probably any other religion in the world. If you look at the black hats, those young men that are told what to do by their rabbis, how to vote, who to marry, what to read, what to eat, what to say, when not to say, when to shut up, when to do everything. I don't think there's ever been a religion that is as effective at controlling its sons and daughters as is the Haredi Judaism. It's pathetic what they've done. They've ruined so many lives. And it is nothing but this legal quagmire of restrictions. Thou shalt not.
The illusion of free will to be able to leave that makes it, they
there's
know
no
that
free
if
will.
they,
You can't know who you cannot leave. If you're born in the Haredi cult, you cannot leave. Anybody that leaves that Haredi cult is all but destroyed by that cult.
And don't you have to be Haredi in order to migrate to and be a
Yep.
citizen of Israel?
Yep. It's they gave the rabbis control of Aliyah, and they don't want anybody in that isn't going to vote with them. So it's all about political power. Yeah, Israel doesn't have a constitution, so their nation is the rabbis get certain say over certain areas, and the secular state gets certain say over certain areas, and they just have this letter of agreement as to who has control over certain aspects of society, and they've created them. Just a disaster. It's the worst blending of religion and politics in the world. And to call Israel, a democracy, whatever. Yeah. No. It's the terror of the Haredi. It was the terror of Marxists. The only candidates that prevailed in Israel from the beginning were all Marxists. And if you were not a Marxist, you couldn't be an officer in the military. You couldn't have any seat in government. That was the nature of Israel. And then it went from being all Marxists to the rise of Likud and the religious right. But the religious right and Likud can't win an election based upon a majority of Israelis. They win because they bribe the Haredi. And so the power behind politics in Israel is the religious right. And they do it for bribes. The bribe that they don't have to function within society, they don't have to pay taxes within society, they don't have to serve in the military to defend Israel, and that they get subsidies to indoctrinate the next generation in the Talmud. It's reprehensible what they have in Israel. And if you want to call that democracy, then you can have it. I think I'd rather have Sparta than that. Iran will have to pay the price for stalled negotiations. Isn't he the fellow that I think it's 32 times now that says we're really close to a deal? It'd be a great deal. Strait's going to open immediately. Be a great deal. And we're another 2 days. We're just 2 days away. I think he said that 32 times now, hasn't he? And then he has to go and bomb bridges and bomb dams because they stalled the negotiations. Well, the fact is, there's only been one time that there has been an agreement, and that is when Trump agreed to the 10-point plan of the Iranians, and then afterwards he read it and said, "Oh, I can't agree to that," and went and reneged on all of it. So my line here is that the beatings will continue until morale improves. Yeah, that is exactly the mindset of this POS. Beatings will continue until the morale improves. Yeah, I'm going to beat them into doing a deal with me. I don't have a deal that appeals to them that would be fair for everybody. I cannot negotiate a deal on its merits. So I'm going to beat them up until they do the deal that I want done, because I am incapable of actually negotiating anything that's reasonable. Yeah. You want to interpret it any other way?
That's not a deal.
No. I wonder if Trump actually realizes how much of a pickle he's got himself in here. If it's just that delusional and he thinks he's still in total control, or does he realize the truth?
No, he's delusional.
He's lost control.
Yeah, he's confabulation, when we call him the copper confabulator. Confabulation is actually a medical diagnosis. It means that there's no correlation between what a person believes and says and reality. He is a confabulator. There is no correlation between reality and what he believes and says. And so, and that's one of the reasons why there's also no correlation between what he believed 5 minutes ago and what he says next. There have been so many presentations now in the Oval Office or tweets on Truth Social where he contradicts himself in his own post. So, there's no correlation between what he believed 5 minutes ago and what he's going to say next, or what he said as a candidate and what he says after that, or he's had negotiations with himself. And, he prevails in those negotiations against himself. Well, he doesn't. He gets really close. Within a day or two, he'll conclude the negotiations with himself.
We're almost there, right?
We're almost there. I've got one more stop in the bathroom, and we'll get there.
I don't know if it was on one of your posts.
I'll have worked this out in my own mind. I have the greatest mind of all minds.
I don't know if it was one on one of the posts you put on, or I saw this morning. It was something like Iran has 48 hours to make a deal before we give them 72 more hours.
Yeah, I think that was actually applied to somebody else. That was a Ukrainian thing, and so I didn't post it. But yes, I read that same one too. I wonder if the tower says, "Oh boy, I'm so glad to be blessed. I feel so much better now. There was so much strain on my upright supports, but now that I've been blessed by the Pope and the Pope Mobile, oh God, don't you feel better already?" Oh, by the way, now it's the tallest church because the Pope blessed it. Oh. I recall the influence of Roman Catholicism in Spain. Do you?
Inquisition?
Yeah.
You're calling that
charmers.
Influence?
Oh, yeah. They were
charmers.
They're really charmers. Yeah. I just think that this marriage between the pooper and the Spanish, it's just perfect. I mean, they got nothing but anti-Semites promoting a man who was God, who men tortured to death, and that's your religion. But you got nice spires, yeah. And they're blessed. Oh, not only tall spires, but they're blessed. You got that going for you.
It's an edifice to the biggest grift ever. The biggest. Yeah, I think it's the single biggest grift in human history is the fraud that is Jesus. I don't think there's any bigger grift. It has made so much money for so many people. It's been so effective in controlling people, and the obvious conclusion from the evidence is he never existed, and he was nothing but a product of identity theft.
So all these people dressed as religious morons, all these buildings, they're for someone who never existed, and for a religion that's exceedingly appalling to God. God despises Christianity with every fiber of his spirit.
Mikey's going to set them straight. Mikey will save the day here.
I think before I did this, there was one that came, it's last in, first up. And before this, when we were noticing this was the retaliation and they sent missiles into Jordan, Bahrain, and Kuwait, I said, I'll bet you anything that MBS is going to resolve all this with a strongly worded condemnation. And that'll fix it all. And then here was the strongly worded condemnation. And so it was actually more funny when it was presented in the order that I responded to them. But boy, we are safer now. Nicely done, MBS. Another strongly worded condemnation is just what the region required. I'm sure that's going to fix everything.
You guys knock it off, or I'll send the Pakistanis in. Right?
Yeah, I'll send them. And that's worked out really well, hasn't it? What have the Pakistanis done?
Yeah.
It was interesting. In Israel 2 days ago, Netanyahu said we had to strike because we had confirmed intel that Iran was going to deploy a nuclear bomb. That came directly from Netanyahu. We had to strike because we had confirmed intel that Iran was going to deploy a nuclear bomb.
Which means they have nukes. Boom, right there. He said, yeah.
Well, I mean, Netanyahu and that government have lied a lot. I'm not so sure that I would take that to the bank. What I would take to the bank is that they had the ability to have a nuclear bomb for the last 20 years. And the United States and Israel have put them in a position where they have no choice but to develop their bomb. And they are partners, economic partners with 3 countries that all have bombs that want them to survive because they're very important to Russia, North Korea, and China. And so the likelihood of them not having a bomb now is nil. So we can say that for certain, and that rather than preventing them having a bomb, Trump and Netanyahu ensured that they do have one.
Yeah,
that we can say. But I thought it was interesting to see that
Well,
bit of affirmation.
the only real question left is when is it going to happen?
Yeah, and when we last talked about it, what I said was that because we said there are 3 options that Iran has. With a bomb. One is they can just detonate one underground and say, see, we have one. And then they can send a missile with a conventional warhead someplace and say, and we can deliver it. That would be the speak loudly and carry the big stick, but don't whack people with the big stick. The second option was to deploy the bomb over the U.S. Fleet. And the reason that they would do that is that the U.S. fleet was there as a belligerent. They are attacking and killing Iranians. They would have every right to do so. It would be a deployment of the bomb in a way that defends Iran from the aggressor. And they will have it's the perfect response. Iran likes to keep their response proportional. The United States has said they're going to send Iran back to the Stone Age over their nuclear ambitions. And they've said they put the Iranian Navy at the bottom of the sea. It would be an appropriate response by Iran just to detonate it over the U.S. Navy. And the third, of course, is that they actually use it and send it over Israel or someplace like that, which I think is highly unlikely. But I think the first 2 are possible. And if I were Iran, I know which one I would do of those 2. Well, how about you, Roger?
I'd go after the fleet.
Yeah, I would too. And there's nothing that we have seen, experienced, witnessed, or read, heard from the Iranians that say that they are not strategic and thoughtful in their response. And if that's the most rational response, that's the one I would expect.
Yeah. Been watching some of these on the television at night. These
Yeah, I'm going to
protests
say something
going on.
that is going to put me, I'm sure, in hot water with some people. I have no sympathy. I do not care. I really have no sympathy. I am Celtic by my DNA says I'm Romeo Celtic. The Romans spent a lot of time up there beating the Celts up, and so there's a place in northern France where the Celtics and the Romans cohabitated for a good long while, and the DNA takes me to that place. So from an ethnic point of view, Northern Ireland would be my forefathers. Although it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you know this or not, but if you go back 10 generations, there's not enough of your forefathers in you to even amount to a conversation. And if you go back 20 generations, just 400 years, it's not even a rounding error. It's literally nothing. And for people to say that they are a Israelite, you have to go back 2,000 to 4,000 years, and it's nothing. Anyway, this is my ethnicity, and I feel nothing for them. And the reason I feel nothing for them is because they have become one of the two nations that's the most anti-Semitic in the world. That there's four nations now that lead what was the old Roman Empire and anti-Semitism. And one actually would be outside of the old Roman Empire, but Ukraine, Greece, Spain, and the worst of them, Ireland. And so they have been the worst, most vocal, most vile anti-Semites. I don't really care what happens to anti-Semites, other than I want them to suffer recompense for what they have done. So today they're screaming at the Marxists who have allowed the Muslims in, at the Muslims who have come in, and they're being vicious in response to the Muslims and rioting in defiance of the Marxists. But they're Christians, and they're going to be anti-Semites again the next day. So I really have no sympathy for them. I will tell you that I witnessed the crime. I'm sure everybody in the world now has seen that video where the first thing he says, he's kind of a mumbler, but it's as close to Allahu Akbar as anything you're going to hear. And then he mumbles something that's unintelligible. And then he takes his knife and he starts sawing on the man's already bludgeoned and beaten. And he starts sawing on his throat. And it's some citizens that have the courage to whack him, and so that and I don't know if the man has subsequently died or not, but they whack him pretty good, and he gets arrested and the like. But that was an unbelievably gruesome exposition of Islam, and it is Islam. I mean, you can quote all manner of statements. In fact, if you read Prophet of Doom, go to yadayah.com, read Goddamn Religion, the 5 volumes of Goddamn Religion at yadayah.com, all free, and you will find over 1,000 quotes that explain what you're witnessing. And the book will also explain to you how to stop it. But the fact of the matter is, it's way too late for these people, and they deserve no better.
Well, wasn't he just doing what good Muslims do?
Yeah, they are.
It was a perfect example of a good Muslim.
Yeah, and the Christians that are now saying we want you out of our home and are burning their homes down and the like, their response is no more intelligent. I mean, so Kevin, I mean, you've watched it. Do you have any sympathy for them?
Oh, not at all. I mean, any idiot could see this coming a mile away, and the cat has been out of that bag for a long. I mean, you have had a Muslim mayor of London. Okay, and I understand it. You know, it's the UK, Ireland is not, but there are Muslim mayors in Ireland too, in different cities and stuff, small
Oh, of course.
enclaves. This has
Of
been
course.
going on for a long time,
Yep.
and so absolutely no sympathy whatsoever, because it's absolute idiocy that you let it start to begin with. You know,
Well, last time I was in the UK and went to London, I made a promise that I would never return.
Yeah, me too. I was there in '93, and I didn't want to go back either. Yeah.
And it's much worse now than it was then. But yeah, never going back. They did this to themselves. You made your country a cesspool. Swim in it.
yeah.
Burn it down for all I care.
And no one has the stomach for what it's going to take to, I mean, not that they don't. Okay, I'll just say it. They don't have the stomach for what it would take to clean this up. It's not going to happen. You know, this idea that they can go through and burn. Yeah.
Not impossible. No, you can't undo this. This is the curse of Angela Merkel. She's the one that opened the doors. And Brexit was really because the British wanted out of that. And look what they did to themselves anyway. So what was the point?
Well, it's like an endemic disease. Once it's in your system, you can't get it out.
You can't get it out. That's why God said, don't associate with the religious and political ways of the Goyim. This is what you will do to yourself. But look at Israel. Israel has a higher percentage Muslim population than any non-Muslim country in the world. It's darn, in the part of Israel that actually gets to vote on Israeli politics, it's I think 2/3, 1/3. But if you take in the Judean Samaria, the Gaza areas, and the other areas controlled by the PA, and you count them all, there are actually more Muslims than there are Jews. Yeah, it's a bad situation. Oh, so this is the Atlantic, and
crisis for Christianity, huh?
Yeah, some idea is that this is the evangelical embrace of Donald Trump, and it's not just evangelical Christians. MAGA is probably 8% Christian. Represents a crisis for Christianity. Yeah, that's true. It's a crisis for Christianity. They've Christians voted for and now support the person they would call the Antichrist. That's probably a problem for the religion. But an opportunity to rediscover the virtues of Christian humanitarianism.
I don't even know what that means.
I don't know what that means either, but I can tell you there is no opportunity here. There is.
That means give me money.
Yeah, Christians have a false God and obviously false scriptures that are a lie from beginning to end. So it's a religion based entirely on a lie. There is no humanitarianism that can be deduced from reviving that lie in any way. Discarding the religion, maybe it's an opportunity to discard the religion, but not to rediscover the religion. That the only opportunity there is in Trump is to recognize that we were taken again, just like we were taken by Paul in this whole story of Jesus, and it's a complete fraud. Trump's a complete fraud too. We were taken a second time. Shame on us the first time, or shame on them the first time. Shame on us the second time. We ought to come clean and walk away from politics and from religion and stop this whole nonsense, because we obviously aren't smart enough to know when we're being defrauded. That's the only opportunity.
Yeah, and to call this a crisis, because I thought that it was just months ago that we were filling college auditoriums with people profaning Christianity that had never done so before, that we were filling auditorium, that churches were filling up with young with youth,
Charlie Kirk, the MAGA Twistian. I mean, he was 50% MAGA pro-Trump pro-rapist and pedophile and Satan, and 50% pro-Christianity. And I mean, he is the perfect embodiment of this absolute mess and fraud. You know, what's also interesting here is they have their Bible up there on the top. They're not smart enough to know that Bible is the same word in Hebrew that would be Babel, and it means to confound and confuse by intermixing. And that book, 85% of it is the Torah, prophets, and Psalms, and it in every possible way condemns that addendum at the end of it, which contradicts everything God had to say. And so the very book is a living lie.
It is the nature of Babel, right there.
It is the nature of lie. They have commingled Babel, truth and lies. They tacked a whole pile of lies onto the truth.
To have a good trap, you have to have the bait.
Yeah, you got to have bait. Yeah, if you're going to have a trap, you got to have bait. And that was the Torah, prophets, and Psalms was the bait. The New Testament was the trap. Oh, so
people really don't like landlords. I just don't understand it.
Mrs. Ball here says that it isn't the people's responsibility to keep the ultra rich from failing and going broke. And her deal is that the rents are going up because the landlords can't afford their buildings anymore. For numbers of reasons, and one of the reasons are that office buildings in particular now have so low occupancy numbers because of this idea of remote work, which I'm going to tell you something, it's not appropriate. I know people love it, but it's not work. If you're going to be paid for a job, you need to go to the job that you're being paid to do and be among those that you're being paid to work with so that you can be witnessed at that job, doing that job, and not at your home, intermixing your own private life while pretending to be at work. It doesn't work, and it isn't working.
Oh, I got an idea. How about we pay people not by the hour for homework, but for productivity? Almost like commission, and see how fast people want to go back to work in an office building.
Yeah. When I was in business, I was always paid commission. And on a commission, you only make a living if you perform. Most people don't want to subject themselves to do that. The advantage of if you perform well, you may make a lot of money, but the disadvantage is there is no crutch. But what the Marxists just don't seem to understand is if those fellows that own those buildings go broke, because you don't care if they go broke, then there is no place for anyone to live. Then there is no society. The entire society will crumble. So if the people that own the buildings and the factories go broke, there is no economy. It's all gone. Government is not going to take it over and run it. Government does everything poorly. And so, the last two times we played that game in China and in Russia, where they confiscated everybody's land and business in both places, 200 million people died? We played that game, and they impoverished everybody, and they deprived everybody of their rights. And you, Mrs. Ball, wouldn't even be able to post anything on social media. So you be really careful what you're advocating, because what you're advocating is, it's death, economic death, liberty, death of liberty, death of prosperity. Now, I'm not saying that I want to come up with a way of resolving this real estate bubble that is about to take the economy down, because even if you could, and I don't think you can, there are another 50 things that will take the economy down. They're all going to coincide at the same time. The fact that there's no value in the dollar anymore, that it's a debt instrument, that fiat currencies don't work, that the debt became too great, that the petrodollar doesn't exist, the reserve currency status has been destroyed because the U.S. has weaponized its currency because it destroyed the petrodollar relationship by invading Iran, that it's made doing business in the country essentially impossible, so that it doesn't make anything anymore. And I mean, you can list thousands of things, and the fact that the younger generation doesn't want to work.
Yeah.
and that
The
and that two generations have no idea as to why business is important and why you ought to value it rather than condemn it.
Yeah, one thing I can always watch for to see turns in economy is commercial real estate defaults, because those are the places where money is being made, and that lifeblood of the economy is happening, is where, you know, someone is renting to someone or has sold a property to someone for business, not to live in. It's commercial real estate defaults. My other comment was all these office buildings we're worried about and stuff, they have water, right? Why don't we put AI data centers in those?
Not enough water. Not enough water. And they're not set up with the right structure for those. And no, they're not set up for that. But the real estate bubble is many facet, and part of it is offices across the country and sometimes across the world, because of the gross manipulation of people from a virus on the COVID-19 thing. It's a legacy of that, and we're never going to recover from it. But the other part, states like Florida, where they've made it essentially impossible to sell your property, from either you can't insure it or that you can't get a loan on it. So there's just one place after another that is that's imploding economically.
It seems like for a long time there were a lot of props propping things up, and the props are starting to fall away.
The U.S. economy, because it's a fiat currency, is based on faith. It's like a religion. And so long as people believe that it's okay, no matter how bad a shape it's in, it stumbles along. But it's like all belief systems, when somebody actually points out that it's just a fraud, and people begin to see that it is a fraud. You're holding a debt instrument that has no value, and the value has already been destroyed 99%, and now they're going to destroy the 1% that you have by another 99%. And people point that out, then the whole thing just crumbles, and that's what we're witnessing now. Trump yesterday, I watched this. First he says, I love inflation. The reports came back that inflation is higher than it's been in quite some time, 4.6% in America, and racing towards 6 to 8% in America. And he actually says, I love inflation. That's a great report. We love inflation. I love inflation. The Democrats said, well, we won the midterms right there. No, you don't, because, Marxists and inflation are coterminous. So you can't run on inflation. Sorry, Marxists. But he did. He said, I love inflation. And then somebody brought up, the trade pacts with China, not China, but Canada and Mexico are renewing in the next 6 months to a year. What are you going to do? He says, I don't care. I don't need them. America doesn't need them. They need us, but we don't need them. Would you like to know who's America's largest customer in the world? Want to guess who America's largest customer in the world is?
Number one was Canada, right?
Number one. And guess who America's second largest customer now in the world?
Yeah.
Mexico. Yeah. Mexico. And so what you've just said is that I'm a businessman. I am the ultimate businessman. Thank God we got a businessman here in Britain. I'm a smarter businessman than anybody ever been a businessman. And I've just told you that your two biggest customers,
I don't need them.
Canada and Mexico. And it's by a huge margin. You go from both of those countries being around $338 billion a year down to number three, which happens to be China at about $100 billion a year. So you've got two countries that are 3 times number three. Two countries, 3 times number three. And you just told them those two customers, those two clients of the United States, they don't mean anything to us. I don't care about them. Why do we need a trade deal with them? How could you be that stupid? And then if you're in the media, please tell me, how come there's somebody in the media that said, excuse me, but between those two, you have $700 billion of U.S. exports. They are 7 times greater in terms of being a customer of the United States than is China, which is number 3. The UK is number 4 at about 97 billion. So for you to say that, and you claim to be a businessman, you've just said, let's just trash and ignore our 2 biggest customers, 2 customers that are, damn near half of our trade.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got nobody in the journalistic group that's capable of saying that.
Wasn't Trump's biggest business in filing bankruptcies?
Yeah, he's very good at it. He did it a lot.
Casinos.
Yeah, he's the only guy in the world ever bankrupt a casino. But yeah, he took what his father gave him, and if he had invested it all in just a mutual fund, it'd be worth many times what he's invested. He's a moron.
Yeah, and this is not a tactic, by the way. This is not how these huge deals are negotiated, right? That, oh, we don't need you. You need us more than we need you. That no one really takes
what
that
happened?
seriously,
right? The Canadians went to China.
To China. Mm-hmm.
And so did the Mexicans. So yeah, they listened to what you had to say. It didn't work. It was counterproductive. And that fertilizer that you need from Canada, that they were 80% of your supply, and they're not shipping it to you anymore. And that heavy crude that you needed from Canada that to run in your refineries that you couldn't get, they're not shipping that to you anymore. And the uranium that you need for your weapons of war, and they're not shipping that to you anymore either. No, but you can go buy it from Russia. So that's there you go. That works out nicely.
Yeah.
No, you could get it from the Persian Gulf if it was open. That'll work out nicely.
If it was, all right.
Yeah, this is that line where he said, yeah, I love it. I love the inflation. Quite the businessman, that boy. You go, MAGA.
It's a double-edged sword because he gets to rah, rah, rah. The Dow is rallying to higher than ever. The Dow is rallying to higher than ever, which is on inflation. But yet I have, I got to talk down oil on the other hand. So, it's a trap.
Can you imagine being Jackie here? And you're Jackie William RTF. And you think you have, really figured out something that is so good that you want to promote this under your name. That there's literally no law. I don't know what literally means. There's either a law or no law. There's no such thing. All laws are in writing. So literally would be a verbose. It doesn't fit. And when you begin with a sentence, it's supposed to be capitalized. Okay, so there's literally no law that says you can't put your friends down as your references and pretend that they were your bosses at an old job. Literally, there's no law that says that. I forgot the closing point, and he repeated himself at the end of the sentence. How many employers will go out of their way to hire somebody that deliberately lies to them?
I don't know.
Only congressman.
So, pal, the reason you don't do that is not because there's literally no law, is because if you do that and you get caught at it, not only will the company fire you, but they'll go after you for cause. And to promote that people should do something because that is immoral and would work against them, you are really scum. I mean, it's one thing to think it. It's another thing to pretend to be able to write and to write it. And then to Jackie, there is literally no law that says you can't lie. There's actually no law that says you can't commit adultery either.
Well, I don't know. Being untruthful with the IRS or the FBI or somebody might rise an eyebrow.
Well, I tell you what. One thing is the FBI has a really interesting way of putting people into prison.
Yes.
All they have to do is to accuse you of lying to them, and they can put you in jail, even if you didn't lie to them, and even if you're being nice to talk to them. If they don't like your answer, they can put you in jail. What a disgusting system that is.
Yes. Yeah, I go back and forth in this because I wonder if Jackie is just applying for jobs at McDonald's or Walmart. Because there is a difference. You know what I'm saying? Because first of all, at McDonald's, ain't nobody checking, your references anyway, right?
No, not that. Just because they hire a lot of people who have not worked, and therefore at McDonald's you don't really actually have to have work to get the job. But the McDonald's is all franchise, virtually all franchise. The people that own those franchises are all businessmen that and women that put their money on the line and that oversee their businesses, and they all hire managers over groups of stores, and those managers have the responsibility of using services now. And there are many, many online services whose specific job it is to validate the claims of an applicant. And so most of them will seek to validate the claims of an applicant, and lying about a prior job is pretty much sure to get you in that position.
No, it's fraud. Yeah, there's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Many times I had to fill out applications giving very detailed information on my past and references. And right there at the very bottom was that you're certifying this is complete and true, and you sign it. That's a legal document.
It is a legal document. There is no federal crime that says you can't misrepresent yourself on a legal document, but there are civil codes that say that if you defraud somebody in a written document, or you defraud somebody, they can sue you. So you can be sued for fraud. That doesn't mean there's a crime that says you can't provide false information, but you can be sued for fraud, and this is fraud. So there is a crime that says that fraud is a crime. Misrepresenting yourself and a business deal is called fraud. And there is literally a law that says fraud is a crime.
Here's the MBS statement again.
I guess I'll bet MBS retaliated almost immediately with a strongly worded statement, and I'm sure he did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we read it. Thank you.
Did they wake him up? Did they wake him up, or wait till he got up in the morning?
Is that the same as getting a darn good talking to?
Well, except for the fact that it's some low level fiefdom operator that says, okay, we have the strongly worded statement. Fill in the blanks. The dumpster. Despite more than 100 days of being bombed and blockaded by the world's top military and its Israel ally, the Iranian regime is emboldened. So Donald Trump must swallow his pride and make a deal. No, he doesn't need to make a deal. What he needs to do is surrender. That's really the only option left. There is no deal, only surrender. And surrender comes with war reparations. And those war reparations are more than the release of $28 billion the U.S. stole, more than removing all sanctions, which should never have been there in the first place, but also repaying for all the damage that America did in this war. That's going to be, well over $100 billion. That is what it's going to cost. And even then, the Strait of Hormuz will be controlled by Iran going forward, and the U.S. will be forced to retreat from its bases in the Middle East, and the petrodollar is over. It was one of the dumbest of all of the dumb moves in human history. This is going to rank as amongst the dumbest ever made by anyone. Go MAGA.
Right. Bombing that bridge doesn't look too smart right now, does it?
It doesn't.
How much does a bridge cost?
So Israelis are beginning to despair, as if it appears that Benjamin Netanyahu has failed to deliver total victory. Well, there's no total victory with Hamas. There's no total victory in Syria. There's no total victory with Hezbollah. In fact, Hezbollah is stronger than ever. And there's obviously no victory with Iran. So he didn't deliver any victories at all.
Mm-hmm.
But he did totally demonize Jews in Israel. So that's something.
Yeah,
I don't think
they're
anyone's
going to
demonize his own people more than he had.
yeah, they're going to have to really rethink their what's the return? What's that called? Aliyah laws that they have about, because they're going to have to start letting in Jews in at a record pace before long.
The word all in Hebrew, you're familiar with that the word? A-L?
Cole?
A-L,
Oh,
yeah.
no,
It's
okay.
it's Ain Lamed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it means in Hebrew? It means over and above. Okay, so Ain Lamed in Hebrew is over and above. Aleph Lamed means to negate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Y suffix on a word means I or my.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And the Yah is the last three letters of Aliyah. So it's either I'm against Yah, I negate Yah, I'm over Yah, or I'm above Yah.
Mm. 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 Mm.
How do you think that's
Oh,
is playing up there in Shamaim?
yeah. Oh, wow. Wow.
About as
I do
well as
have a
that
bad taste.
building. That building needs a good blessing there. Maybe we'll get the rabbi to go by and bless it. Looks like the flag might even need a blessing too. I don't know. Maybe it's just the angle, but the building definitely needs a blessing. I don't know who knows where it is, but Israel, you have officially destroyed yourself, and it's getting no better. Yeah, there's a strong rumor that Israel committed another murder. And by the way, if you go and bomb a people to kill people, that's murder. It's not like the Iranians said, I'm going to come to war against Israel, and that Israel had to respond in self-defense, and this is an all-out war between the two, and they're trying to take each other out of the leadership positions on down. That's not the case. I don't think there's any leadership position the Iranians have attacked to take out the Israeli regime. But this is another very high-ranking Iranians. I think he is the top general of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. And Israel is claiming, and Iran seems to be suggesting, that they murdered him in their last strike. Hey, they got that going for them. Another murder.
Great. Oh, they have no problem posting these pictures and letting them know, hey, we killed this guy from Hamas. We killed this guy that, perpetrated this rape on this during the Al-Aqsa flood.
Listen, everybody that participated in 10/7, I do not care. And all the people that says, the majority they've killed were civilians. Oh, Hamas is all a civilian organization. There is, this is not a nation with a military. They're all civilians. But Iran is not Gaza. Iran is not even Hamas. Hamas happens to be a Sunni organization, and Iran is Shia. And the primary benefactor of Hamas is Qatar, which Israel set up to play that role. And in this war, Iran is fighting Qatar. You can blame Hezbollah on Iran, but not Hamas. And the fact of the matter is, it's a legitimate country, whether you like it or not. And they say a lot of death to America and a lot of death to Israel, but for damn good reason. If you look at Iran, America has interfered with, and Israel has interfered with Iran for the last 100 years. I mean, we've treated Iran like it was our own private sandbox and then gas station.
Mm-hmm.
And we imposed and then removed the government before the Shah, put in and then removed the Shah, put in and then removed the Ayatollah. I mean, the United States has earned death to America in Iran. So and then going and bombing them twice, and then prior to that, the war they fought against Iraq, Saddam Hussein was an American ally. We gave him the weapons, chemical, biological, kinetic, to go kill Iranians. So they have every reason to hate America. And, if you want to say we're justified because they say death to America, we got to, look in the mirror and say, why did they say death to America? I'm not defending an Islamic regime by no means, but I don't like hypocrisy, and that's what America has become. What Israel has become.
Yeah. I don't know if you've seen it yet. Go ahead, Roger.
They've been going after, Israel's been going after the Iranian leadership since the beginning of the war. And trying to take as many as they could. But I'm just wondering to myself if Netanyahu's sleeping in a bunker every night. Well,
I would think so. He probably is. But the reality is that Israel sold themselves on this decapitation strike and regime change, not recognizing that they have never pulled off an effective regime change. And the United States has never pulled off an effective regime change. And between the two countries, they've tried over 100 times in the last 70 years, and they've never succeeded once. And they've made a huge mess of the world in the process, including the world as it is right now. And so this should never have been the case. And most of the time when you try regime change, you end up with a much worse situation. We did it in Afghanistan. Look what we have. We did it in Ukraine. Look what we have. We did it in Syria. Look what we have. The Islamic State. Look, we did it in Iraq, and we gave it to Iran. We did it in Libya, and we have nothing but warring jihadists. Regime change almost always brings a more terrible result. And in Iran, what the world considered as the hardliners were softliners compared to the group that's now in power. It was suicide. It was just really dumb, counterproductive. This path that Netanyahu and Barnier and then Trump et al., Lindsey Graham were on. It had no chance of success and guaranteed failure. And its failure made a bad situation much worse. Look at Vietnam. We participated in regime change in Vietnam, and look what it brought. We actually facilitated regime change in China. We didn't like working with Chiang Kai-shek, and America decided that they could get a bigger bang for the buck working with the terrorist Mao. America's the one that betrayed him. I mean, it doesn't matter where you look. It doesn't work. It's counterproductive. Just stop it already.
I don't know if you've seen it yet or not, and I don't know how much truth is to Scott Ritter was, I watched an episode from him the other day, and he was talking about a strike that Iran successfully had on a very upper echelon Israeli target, and some top generals and were killed in this. And I haven't seen anything about that confirms this anywhere in news other than Ritter saying it, other than Israel has said that there was some damage at Ramat David Air Force Base, which I presume would be one of their highest, level security
of the
facilities.
4 or 5 guys that play with each other, and I saw a picture last night that just turned my stomach, which is that CEI guy that was the one that was promoting that Iran already had the nuke. He and Pepe Escobar was out partying at a very expensive restaurant. with Judge Napolitano and the guy that does the mother of all talk shows, screaming anti-Semite Brit that does the mother of all talk shows. They were all together at a fancy restaurant just laughing about their influencer money.
Mm-hmm.
Made me want to puke. And Scott Ritter, it's the only one of those that doesn't hang with them. He is an independent voice. He's a little wild, but he's an independent voice. I would,
and he is definitely not pro-Israel in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, no, but none of them are. None of them are. But I'm not even. I'm not pro Netanyahu. I'm not. Right. I'm opposed to everything that Israel is doing these days. Well, I love Israel. I'll die for Israel, and love Israel, and support Israel as a nation and as a right to exist as a nation and defend it as a nation, while being vehemently opposed to their government and to the rabbis. And so, you can make claims, and people have me because of my opposition to Israeli politics and Judaism. But it's true now that everybody is, by everybody, it's 98% of the influencers out there are anti-Israel, and vehemently so. And Scott Ritter's among them. I don't think you even get on the banana tour as a spokesperson unless you're anti-Israel today. You don't even have a voice. Mm-hmm. And so what I typically do now is, I take the time to validate each claim before I'll even post one of these claims, because I see 20 a day where one of these talking heads will say that this, that, and the other thing would happen. The colonel that is quoted so often, the white hair, that McGregor, I think is his name. Yeah. He said that in 4 minutes' time, Israel lost its entire fuel supply for every tank and every aircraft in the north.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And he was all bragging. It's not one. He says there was 18 of these things. All 18 were destroyed. Their tanks cannot move anymore. Their planes can't fly, and on and on. And so I tried everything I could to validate his claim. No validation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like this claim that Iran had the nuclear bomb, and I can explain why they have a nuclear bomb. But I'm not going to say they're within days of detonating a nuclear bomb. All I know is that they've made every intelligent call so far, and the intelligent call, based upon having the ability to have a bomb and having partners that have bombs, is to have a bomb to keep America and Israel from continuing to bomb them. But it's a big difference between that and within a week's time they're going to deploy a nuclear bomb. A big difference. And so if you try to fact check that, you'll find there are no facts to fact check it. Social media, it blows up, and you become liked and listened to, and you make money by promoting things that are not true that people want to hear. It's that's why when we bring these things up, you'll notice that thus far we've had 15 to 20 posts we've covered this morning. Has any one of them been, boy, that's really great. What great news. Somebody did a bit of investigative journalism there, and they've come up with an insight that is really useful to us? Or has it just been no, don't be fooled by that. No. And
right.
No, and hell no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been a lot of no's, a lot of barking today.
Yeah, a lot of barking, as the book would say.
Good news doesn't sell. I think Cronkite had a word for it. He said that nobody's interested in 500 planes landing safely every day.
No. Yeah. But the fact is that now, because of AI and because of social media, there's no responsibility in reporting. So you can make any claim you want, no matter how ludicrous. And the AIs aren't capable of being able to discern lies when they are spoken in a video or when they are shown in a graphic. If you write them on the little bar and say, no, this is not true because the Quran says such and such, even though your claim is true and documented, they will ostracize you for that. But you can promote all manner of lies about Israel and Jews if you're doing it in a graphic or in a audio or in a video, and the AIs are incapable of recognizing that. It's just amazing. By the way, I was talking to Perry Fairmount here in the last few days about AI and the new conversation that AI is going to become sentient. And so what do they mean by sentient? And they mean that AI is going to be equivalent to consciousness, have consciousness. You know, goldfish has consciousness.
Yes. It's ants. Ants have consciousness.
So what? Let's say that, first of all, no, it will not have consciousness. But so what if it does? Slugs have consciousness. Bacteria do. So what? Consciousness means you can observe and respond to external stimuli. Yeah. So you can go and do your survey, your high-level survey, and respond by giving some sort of an answer, true or false, doesn't matter. It's all, did you observe something that was true or false? Do you have the ability to discern if it's true or false? Can you reason yourself through that evidence and present something that's intelligent? No, that is conscience. And there is no chance whatsoever that AI is going to have conscience. And without conscience, then it is nothing but a diabolical machine that is really no smarter than a goldfish. Just laying it on that if they make their next milestone, and that's consciousness, and then it'll be we can call Claude Goldfish.
Right. Well, I'd feel more comfortable if we had a goldfish watching the nuclear button or whatever. You know, I would feel more comfortable with that actually. So
than an AI choosing to blow up a bridge and a dam in Iran. Yes.
Yeah. We should just ask the goldfish.
Okay. Well, yeah, the goldfish might be a move in the right direction. Blurp.
2 blurps for yes, 1 blurp for no, right?
Oh, yeah, that fit right in this processor, so long as we're not using quantum computers. I was watching the guy that for IBM has built the first really functional quantum computer, and he was bragging I think it was 60-minute interview on how this is just the most marvelous innovation in history, that he feels like he is at the same point of Columbus sailing across the ocean, or the first invention of the first functional computer. And so he was asked, well, how much faster is this than a existing standard supercomputer today? And he says, it can process information in some categories absolutely as fast as the supercomputers in other categories today. So your revolutionary thing here is that your quantum computer is as fast as a regular computer. You say, yes. but it has the potential to be faster.
I painted my car red. It's got to be faster. Just unbelievable.
It says quantum, and quantum sounds cool.
Yes. Well, everybody buys the enriched premium bread. No one just buys bread. We have to have enriched premium bread. So
the thought on a quantum computer is that a regular computer is just zeros and ones, and everything has to be processed in zeros and ones, and it's a string of zeros and ones. And a quantum computer, let's say if you're looking at a compass, and a standard computer would be north and south. Everything is either North Pole, South Pole. And a quantum computer can be every degree along the ring, so that you're capable of having strings of information and multiple information in your processing moment, as opposed to just on or off. And that's technically supposed to make it faster. But there's so many other things that go into this process, and that faster is. I know that's the thing they want is faster, but faster isn't always better. I mean, there's a lot of things that faster isn't better.
Cornering,
fastering, making love to your wife, faster is not better. I mean, there are a lot of things, but faster is just not. I want to tell you, doing this job, faster is not better.
Right.
Now, that's a 6,000-year job. Now, a lot of things, faster is not better. Going to school, learning, growing. I mean, there's a lot of things, faster is not better. Anyway, that's their whole thing. I think the whole thing is so asinine.
I kind of like the old.
Of course, with the whole AI thing is that the machine has no judgment, it has no conscience, and the people that are programming it have been indoctrinated in the last 2 generations, and they have no conscience, and the people that own them have no conscience. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
And you watch them play in social media, which is where you get to see them play or answer questions, and you can tell for certain they have no conscience. There's no judgment.
There's already been 2 court cases of AI helping people commit suicide. I mean, at some point that's murder, So it's what did I see the other day?
They'll walk you into a financial scam. And there's no conscience there.
Did you see the post? Did you see the post yesterday about the hallmark that we crossed? That autonomous drones have taken the first human life on the battlefield. Completely autonomous drones, no human intervention whatsoever, other than these are targets. This is a target
Ukraine.
Area.
In Ukraine,
fully autonomous drones have taken a human life. That's so. We got that going for us.
Yeah, we got that going for us. We should be so proud. What else do you have here? And we'll do 1 or 2 more, and we'll call it quits for today.
Oh yeah, 100 million barrels of oil have gotten through. Right?
I watched a gentleman whose sole occupation is tracking shipping through around the world of oil movement, and he has irrefutable fact that since the start of the war, Iran has averaged 100,000 barrels of oil more through the Straits of Hormuz than they did prior to the war. So rather than the blockade working, rather than starving Iran's economy, Iran has actually shipped 100,000 barrels more and at twice the price that they previously did.
Yeah.
So 100,000 barrels would be $10 million. So $10 million more per day than what they did previously. That's how well the blockade and all of this is working. And now Trump comes out and says, well, there's over 100 million barrels. Now, there's a big difference between 100,000 and 100 million. Okay, that we're dealing with a factor of 1,000 to 1 have passed through the Strait of Hormuz, and I think it's confabulation. I don't think that's the number, but nonetheless, what he's saying is that that would take it right back to the pre-war days. He says, well, it must be all passing through. But that's what he said, and then the next thing is that he stole it. So over 100,000 million, 100 million barrels have passed through the Strait of Hormuz, and then the next thing is that he stole it. This was all in that same speech of "I love inflation."
Yeah, he is really better asleep, isn't he? He is better asleep.
The next lose when he's asleep, and they do better when he's not there. But that was quite a overtime game. I don't know if you guys caught any of that last night, but different subject here. But it was the largest deficit ever in the playoffs. They were down by 29 points, and they came back to win in the last second. In the New York Knicks haven't won, a series and the national championship forever. So it was actually a pretty good turnaround yesterday when the dumpster wasn't there. He actually, when everybody booed him and gave him the finger, he said, "Oh, he has a righteous crowd." And I think that the cheers, were much greater than the boos.
Much.
God, what a delusional idiot this man.
Wow, he's a piece of work.
He is a piece of work. Oh, goodness. This is being promoted by the new international version, the NIV. And their whole thing was, what does Yahweh mean? And they're talking about the fact often appearing as the Lord.
It just appears. It just
appears.
that.
It appears. The meaning is deeply personal. I mean, may they all go to hell.
Absolutely.
Really, may they all go to hell. Yahweh wrote his name as Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, using 3 of the 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. I say 3 because one of them is repeated. And every other word is pronounceable. And when it's 4 vowels, that makes it super easy to pronounce. And that's what his name is comprised of. And it's not Yahweh, it's Yahowah. Each of those letters is a vowel. And this doesn't even have the H in it. I mean, can you imagine that you're going to talk about God's name and you're not going to even have the H in it?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the H?
A hey. Yeah, it's literally a hey.
It's Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh. You can't even write it right.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't transliterate it correctly. And then you say, what does it mean? Well, it means that God chose that name. That's what it means. And you have no right to change his name or erase his name. That's what it means. It means it's his name, and he happens to be God. And you have a religion, NIV, that is based entirely on that God's testimony. And you went and changed his name and said his name is irrelevant or that it's personal and you can't even write it. And you want to pretend that you're presenting a Bible that's inerrant? What scum. Basis of Christianity and their goddamn Bible, they can all go to hell. Mm-hmm. Really.
They will.
It's Yahowah. Yeah. He's God, and you are worthless. You're worthless. You're counterproductive. You're a bunch of thieves. And you charge people money for something that is you claim is accurate when it's absolutely fraud. No, but there's no crime. There's no law that says literally you can't lie to people.
It's pathetic.
Bring it around.
Literally.
It wasn't too long ago. I got a knock at the door one Saturday morning, and it was the Adventist showing up. So I said, "Oh boy, here we go." And I said, "Well, do you God's name?" I said, "Yeah, I do." They said, "Well, it's Yahweh, right?" And I'm like, "No, stop right there. It's not Yahweh. It's Yahowah." And I took them through the name, and they started to try to walk away. But no, one more thing.
One more
thing. Walk away some more. I went,
no, one more thing.
I gave them Shannon's cards.
Yeah.
But there were 3
Call
of them.
Shannon.
I don't know if I had 2 younger ones. I can't answer your questions.
Maybe you shouldn't be here then. Maybe you shouldn't be promoting a false god.
Yeah, I think
I'm going to go rethink your life.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm on their list now, not to go by. So.
Right. And by the way, why are you a Seventh-day Adventist? And how could you be promoting a Jesus Christ and a Christian religion that condemn the Torah and the Shabbat and the Pesach, Matzah, Bakodim, Shavuot, Teruah, and Asuka? How could you do that? Well, are you out of your mind? Are you thoughtless? Are you irrational? Or are you just ignorant? And if you're ignorant, what are you doing out here? I know there's no law that literally forbids you from being knocking on my door and lying to me, but I don't appreciate it.
You're right.
There's no law that says I can't kick your ass while you're on my doorstep either.
They got an earful.
What did Kirk say? I thought she was bringing me a pie.
It was fun.
Well, today we're going downstairs. Perry and Rich have they have a 2 microphone setup downstairs. I've got the Michael Jackson mic and the Taylor Swift mic, the 2 really high quality mics. They built a soundproof booth down there. They have a text that I'm supposed to read, and it's supposed to script. Read this mad, read this happy, read this soft, read this loud.
Boy.
Be aggressive, be passive. And then there's certain words you're supposed to say that will train your AI. So they've got 2 competitive text-to-speech programs that they're trying simultaneously to see which one is easiest to clone, because we've decided that we're going to proceed with the books, but not using 11 Labs, because 11 Labs would, just for giggles, would start with an $11,000 bill. And I've spent, hundreds of thousands of dollars on our project here with the Yahowah vlog and everything. And so I'm not opposed to spending money, and 8,000 compared to all of that's,
You could
5%.
just buy me a house for the same amount, and I could read the books to you. I mean,
yeah, there you go. Well, except for the fact that just reading the books and recording them and then editing what you read, because you wouldn't like what you read when you read it. You would edit it, and it's 10 hours of editing for every 1 hour of talking. And therefore, if you devoted 3 hours a day to it, it'd take you 10 years. And oh, by the way, the other issue is that, with the exception of the 3 now new Coming Home series and the most recent release series on Time of Trouble, most of the books haven't been updated in 3 years. And so we would be paying money to record things that aren't as current as we would like them to be. Now, that said, I don't have the 3 years to go back and update every book, so I'm just not going to do it. Not because I don't want to, it's just because there's challenges. You got choices you can make in life, and spending 3 years doing that and dropping everything else is a choice that would be inappropriate. So spending a lot of money doing it would not be appropriate, but we do need to have the books read. I've tried on series to read a book, and we have gone all the way through. For example, Coming Home 1, we've done the entire book, and plus commentary. And on Twistianity, Pauline Twistianity, I think it was like 90 shows, and we're about 2/3 the way through 1 volume. So it takes a lot of time to read them and record them. So the AIs are really crappy at it, by the way. You can only feed them 1 paragraph at a time. Can't even feed them 1 chapter at a time. You know why? Their attention span, they can't pay attention.
8,000 characters. That's the most.
8,000 characters at a time. That's all they can process. And so the very thing you would think they'd be good at, they're crappy at. So you can feed them 1 paragraph at a time. There's, by the time I have the new books published, it'll be 30,000 pages. There's an average of probably 10 paragraphs per page. Certainly 8 paragraphs per page. And so, you're dealing with enormous effort, even with AI. So they're working to come up with a more automated way to break the books down by paragraph, give the AIs sound bites at a time. And then we decided that rather than having 3 voices, which is what we did in the first test, a voice that reads the narrative, my commentary, a voice that reads the bold, and then another voice that does the parenthetical, the foreign word and the parenthetical, which I thought was kind of neat. But the problem is that there's no way that the human mind, as far as we have deteriorated now, can even hold on to what the sentence was about when it has that much information in it. They'll lose it. And if Joe creates and links them to the page turner books, which he did previously, you still have access to the Hebrew word. If we're talking about translating the Dead Sea Scrolls, you still have access to the Hebrew word, which you can use for its intended purpose, which wasn't to speak. It's not replicated for speech. It's replicated for validation, so that you have the means to validate or invalidate the translation. And then the parenthetical that contains additional information is available to you, as is the validation process when it's being read, and the page tuner book is right there and it's highlighted of what it's reading, you have the best of all worlds. Then you can just read the bold and not lose the reader's ability to maintain and process the flow of the sentence, which is, by the way, what I actually say in each of the first volumes of each series is just read the bold and you'll be better off, and then go back later and consider the rest of it. So we're going to have one voice, not three. We're going to try to clone my voice. It has definite cadence and tone and delivery style, and so we think it will be better to try to clone my voice to do it. Then we are going to create an avatar, because it's most people can process. I'm particularly in this group. As you grow older, your ears don't work as well. You lose the ability to process typically high sounds, and that's my case. And so with the avatar speaking the words, it's not only more interesting for people, but your mouth moves in such a way that far more people are able to understand what you're saying when they can look at the mouth forming the words. So we're going to have an avatar that will create, and we're going to try to read the books. This is a process that Joe and Leah have been working on for a while, but kind of ran into a dead end on their process. And, they found a really fun clone, and they did one sentence from 11 labs, but it's too much money and too much time. And yeah, it's a nice cloning technique, but where do you go from there? And you don't own anything with a company like 11 Labs. They own everything you do. They even own your voice that they've cloned from you. But there are 3 or 4 open source companies that we're testing, and we'll see how it develops, and if Joe can relink it with a book. And so we're going to try, first a chapter, and then a book, and then a series. And that is what we're going downstairs to see if we can do. All the while, I'm very, very close to finishing the story of Noach and Shem and their trip into Israel, where they met with Abraham and Sarah when God said that he's going to cause a child to be born to Sarah. That's who the other 2 individuals were. And then I'm witnessing them do their trip down to Sodom. It was those same guys that went into Sodom. That's who they tried to rape. Well, I don't think it was tried to rape. I think it's misinterpreted. But it's those guys who were into Sodom, and right now dealing with Catan and Gadol in the middle of that conversation. And then they go from there to they're the 2 witnesses that join Abraham and Yishak to Mount Moriah, and that's the last year of Noach's life on that phase. And so we're going to finish that, and then I've got some things to talk about in terms of the support that Yahowah provided Moshe. And then we're going to survey what God had to say about the birth of the kinsman redeemer when he came to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Bakurim. For example, in the middle of that crucifixion account where Dode is saying, I'm going to be crucified. He talks about suckling on the breasts of his mother and being born the old-fashioned way. Why would he say that in the middle of that conversation if it wasn't germane to fulfilling Pesach?
Yeah.
And what does that mean? That means that somewhere in the text there's a testimony about his mother and father. And then we turn to Yeshaya, I think it's 11, where we're told that a certain woman is going to give birth to a child. And we can take the etymology of that and take it right to this point. And we find there's only one place where a mother is credited, and Dode constantly credits the Amma for saving him and for delivering him and for being a gift of God to him. But there's only one place that says, I am the Amma, and I'm going to deliver the kinsman redeemer. And that's the story we're going to translate next. That's the story of Ruth and Boaz. But I'll put it in that context. And so that's our current project once we finish the clone voice. We're going to play the Clone Wars. Yes.
All right. Quick brown fox jumps over the dog, right? And then you're done. That's all you got to do is go.
They have not told me what I'm reading. I told them I don't want any practice at it. We'll do it the old-fashioned way. You just tell me which monkey. I work for peanuts. I'll read what you want me to read.
I
Going
can't
live.
wait. I can't wait to see it, hear it. It's gonna be great.
I think it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's certainly going to be a whole lot better than just encouraging people to read because they don't read anymore. So this will be a huge improvement. When Joe first started doing it and keying it into the books, I was so impressed. And then a month's gone by and we haven't made at least any progress that I have seen. So I don't know what has transpired. But Perry bought a beast. He's got a Blackwell chip on a machine downstairs. Very, very fast machine, and it's capable of doing all this. And we have to own the process, which means it has to be one of the open source ways to do it. And Rich has studied text to speech for some time, particularly in the world of translating Yahowah's testimonies. So he has a lot of experience in it, and Perry loves his computers and logic and sounds and the mathematical approach to things. And so we'll see how it all plays out. But I think we're in good hands, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they develop it. It should be cool, Roger. Yeah. Should be good. Yeah. So that's what we're doing behind the scenes. And yeah, thank you for your comment on Odie. I read your comment, and it means a lot coming from you. That was really a touching episode to see. Here's a guy that has known us for 20 years. And we get from those that make themselves famous by hashtagging my name to say that it's a Craig Wynn cult. And here's a young man that ran into us in Nigeria 20 years ago, read all the books, and making a contribution. First time I ever talked to him was yesterday.
Yeah.
The first time I talked to you, Roger, was when we were passing comments, and I was commenting on, boy, you really write very well, when we were developing our presence in social media, right? Yeah. Prior to that, we had never communicated directly, and then how we're doing these shows together.
I listen to you a lot.
With Kevin, I heard that he was debating numbskulls and doing a really good job debating numbskulls. And I said, a guy that can debate numbskulls is my kind of guy. I need to meet this guy. And so I sent out word. And first thing he said, oh, my God, I've been called to the principal's office. What am I going to do now? So we obviously are an opportunity zone for people that can get the most out of all of this that they want. And it's all given to them for each individual to learn and grow at their own pace. And we have obviously asked nothing of anybody. No money, no devotion, no nothing. And most of the people will go 15 years before we'll even talk. So methinks they want to think through that their lame approach to the ad hominem attack. Probably not a good idea.
Probably not.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've just got Asher back from the vet. We'll have to see how that went. Rich is over there taking care of her. We've got the mail lady that just drove through, which is going to drive our Wookiee crazy. So we got all sorts of things going. I would sign off now, gentlemen, if I could, but we have nobody at the controls unless you can push.
I got it.
You got it. Okay. Well,
all you got to do is say good day.
And by the way, the sign language yesterday for let's play it, let's stop it. Boy, you were on that. That was so cool. I can't wait to do that one again. God, it was like we're doing an orchestra and we were making it happen.
Almost better than AI, huh?
But I will tell you, the highlight for me was being proven wrong twice over. I had thought that because of the overall composition of Dust to Fire, that it was, by the way, it's the exact reverse now of the new Avatar movie that is being released. It has that same byline. It's just reversed. So that'll be interesting to see how they respond to that, even though we were before them. But I thought that the combination of that was so brilliant that it was our theme song. And then we replay the To Israelite Came. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So strong. And when I thought that was as good as it gets, and then the unnamed song, the song that didn't even have a name, that's the other part of the lyrics, but done to a very different style. The dancing in the streets in Israel, 1950s style. Now that is my favorite. That is just brilliant. That is breathtaking.
It is.
Yeah, that is good.
I'm glad we were able to find a way to get that out for people
Oh
to see.
my
'Cause so
God,
much
I hope
work
we get
went into
it.
that
We need a
for him.
name on that. We need to feature it on the homepage. We need to do everything we possibly can. That is just gorgeous and brilliant and entertaining and powerful. And it's such a marvelous accoutrement to Israel I Came. It's the same basic set of lyrics, some crossover between the two, but the crossover is just reinforcing. It's not enough to be even 1% bothersome. It's actually a plus to see how they play together. Oh my goodness, that we need a name for it, and we can't just call it Yahowah because we have one now that's called Yahowah. So we need a name for it and a thumbnail for it, and we need to present it and make it prominent because that one is powerful. So I am so glad you brought that to our attention. I hope that we play that tomorrow night as our opening theme.
Okay. You want to play it as the opener tomorrow night? Okay, I can do
want
that.
to play it as the opener tomorrow night, please.
That'd be great.
Yeah, in fact, I was going to get you early today and say, let's play it as our opener today and tomorrow night. But let's at least do it tomorrow night. It's marvelous.
Okay.
And if we end up doing another one this afternoon, we'll see how the guys are on their schedule. I might even want to play it as an opener for the program on Luminaries.
Okay. It's
just
loaded into StreamYard, so Rich just has to click it and it fires up. So
okay, perfect. Well, thank you. Thank you, Roger, for participating. This was a good show for you to participate. All news here today, all hard-hitting stuff. Love having you as part of the program. You're a great guy. And Kevin, as always. Yeah, well, my pleasure. Good day.
Good day.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.